Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So today guys, we're going to be doing a little bit of exegesis. So we're going to try to dive into the text, a particular verse, and we're going to try to understand it in context to see if this verse can be used to justify the belief that the earth, it's millions of years old, or at least is older than thousands of years. And you see, I've seen a reel about this debate between like young earth creationists and old earth creationists. And this is one of the most common verses used by old earth creationists to support the idea that a literal day interpretation in Genesis 1 is shouldn't be used because of the fact that this verse says that one day is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years like one day. So it could mean that those days were much longer periods of time. And this is a debate about this secondary issue in Christianity. This is not really something primary regarding the gospel, regarding salvation, or the nature of God, the nature of Jesus, or the nature of man and sin. So it's just a secondary issue, very interesting point of debate, trying to look at the Bible, what the Bible teaches, and what looking at science and what scientists have to say regarding, for example, the age of the universe, right, the age of the earth. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the actual scientific theories behind why they believe that the earth is millions of years old and the universe is billions of years old. But I'm going to just say that if you really try to dive in, a lot of assumptions have to be made in order to even like use, for example, the isotopes of different radioactive elements to try to see how old a certain stone or certain stones are mostly used actually are. So a lot of assumptions, and we can even test if these assumptions are true, because we can't go back even like 10,000 years to see if it's actually real that particular elements take that much time to decay. These are all assumptions, these are all suppositions as well. So we don't know if there was something that happened that sped up the process or slowed down the process, or some external element interfering with the decaying. So these are all things that we don't know, and scientists do not know. So you should always like take very carefully all the scientific claims, especially about like past events, because we weren't really there, so we can't know for sure that happened. But now, going to the Bible, I'm gonna be doing some exegesis, as I said before, of 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. This verse that it's used by all earth creationists to support the idea that the literal day interpretation of Genesis 1 is actually a wrong one, because a day can mean 1,000 years. Now, unfortunately, if you look at this passage in context, this is not what what Peter is saying, and this is not a correct exegesis of this passage. So I'm gonna try to just show you here a little bit of tools that you can use. Having the interlinear Bible, it's super useful because you actually have the original Greek text, and that can really help you to see, okay, what's the original meaning, the particular verse, the words, right? And again, that can just be a lot of help. Now, Peter, just summarizing here, is writing to Christians, beloved, and he's saying them to be mindful of the words which are spoken by the prophets, Old Testament, and of the commandment of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior, the New Testament. And knowing that something will happen, that scoffers will come in the last days, right? Saying, walking according to the last, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. And this is the scoffers, what the scoffers are saying. So this, of course, something that is false. The scoffers are pretty much saying, why is God delaying so much in fulfilling his promise that he would come and save us? Why is he not coming? Right? Why is he delaying? Why is not fulfilling his promise? Everything is still the same as from the beginning, right? From creation. Now, Peter makes a case, two different cases here. Peter explains pretty much that actually things have not been the same since creation, because of the fact that the earth, the first earth that was formed, was then flooded, was destroyed with water, and the earth that we have right now will be destroyed by fire in the day of judgment. But I want you especially here to see the word day when it's used. It's used the first time, it's used there when it says the last days. And if you go to the Greek, verse 3, it says actually those days. Now they use hemeron in plural, right? This a Greek word is hemera, that literally means day. A period from sunrise to sunset. So these are 24 hours, actually the light part of the day. So when the sun is up, and then if you go to the verse again 7 at the very end, when it says the day of judgment, it's again hemeron. So it's again the same word, day. And this is the same word that's used actually in verse 8. That is a verse used, that says that with the Lord 1 day is as 1,000 years. And 1,000 years as 1 day. If you go to the Greek, this is the same word. Again, it says 1 day, hemera, with the Lord is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years like a day, hemera again. And now the day here that Peter is talking about is not talking about the days of creation. Peter here is talking about the day of judgment. The day when God is going to judge the wicked and is going to instead save his holy and beloved. And Peter is addressing here this from the scoffers, right? Because they're saying God is delaying. God is not coming. He would say he would come at this time, but he's not coming. Why? Right? They are starting to have unbelief in God. They're doubting God. And that's what Peter is addressing. He says, look, do not force on the Lord your own concept of time, right? Because the day of judgment, no one knows when it's going to come. We know it's going to come, but we don't know. So for the Lord, when he sees time, he sees it differently as we see it. And so we shouldn't force our own timeline. Okay, based on this math that I've done, the Lord is going to come in 10 years. Like, you can't force your own opinion on God. God is going to come when he thinks it's going to be a good time to come, when he decides to come, right? So that's the idea and the meaning of this passage. It's not saying that we should interpret Genesis 1 like 1,000 years because it's just out of context, and it's not what the verse is saying. Peter here is saying, do not doubt God when he's delaying, when he's not coming, when you think he should come, when he's not coming. Don't doubt. No, keep believing, keep having faith, because the Lord is not slow, is not delaying concerning his promise, but he's long-suffering towards us. So God is patient. God is not coming yet, so to judge everyone, because he's not willing for that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. That's why God is delaying. That's why Christ is not coming yet. He's giving us time to repent, to come to him, and to be saved through his gift of salvation and through Christ. And that's why he's delaying. So we can't force our own timelines, or when we think it's fit for Jesus to come back. No, we can't, because for the first thing is that for God, time is different. God is not bounded by time. We are creatures in time. We're bounded by time. But for God, God is outside time. So that's why for him, time works differently. And this is actually a passage that we find also in Psalms 90, verse 4, that says, for 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it is past. So for God, it's outside time, right? He sees the last 1,000 years as it was just one day, as just yesterday. So that's the idea that Peter is wanting to communicate, right? That for God, time is different, and that we shouldn't force our own opinions on God. No, saying, for example, okay, God has to come at this time, right? And God is delaying, God is not coming. We shouldn't doubt him, but we should still trust him, because he's patient. He's gonna fulfill his promise. He's gonna do it. But he wants more people to be saved. That's why he's waiting. And again, because then Peter talks about the day of the Lord. And this same word, again, is hemera, the same word used before. So you can see that the day that Peter is talking about is not day in terms of general sense. He's talking about the day of judgment. So the day of the Lord, the day in which Christ is going to come to judge the wicked and to receive and save and redeem his holy ones. And that's it. So that's the exegesis done properly of this verse. This verse is not saying anything about us interpreting days in a different way than it should be. And actually, I'm going to give you guys here my own idea and interpretation of Genesis 1 when the Bible is talking about days. You can see that the sun and all the stars in the sky, like the lights in the firmament, right, on the sky, that are made to divide the day from the night, are actually created on the fourth day, right? So the question becomes, when the first, second, and the third day, how did they happen, right? What divided the morning and the evening? Because there was no sun, and we divide the time of the day, right, because of the sun going up, the sun going down. That's the day of night, right? But if there was no sun, how did these days pass? And this is, of course, a very nice and interesting question, and you can dive in, you can speculate, we can give our own ideas. The actual answer is that we don't really know exactly. It could be, conceptual facts. For example, God creating light in terms of God creating all the laws of the physics of the universe. For example, the gravitational force, the electromagnetic force, all the atoms, right? God creating that stuff, and then just Moses pretty much giving the concept of light versus darkness, right? Day versus night. But there couldn't be an evening or a morning because there was no sun, or at least there couldn't be an evening and a morning in the way in which we know it. So it could be very well that it was different, that it was another source of light, that maybe God was the source of light for the passing of time. But yeah, this is a very interesting topic. And the actual answer is that we don't really know. But what I know is that on Exodus chapter 20, when God is giving the Israelites the 10 commandments, when God is talking about the Sabbath, it says here, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days. Now this word days here used is yom, actually yomim, that is the plural. So it says 6 days you shall labor and do all the work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, nor you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your male servant, female servant, cattle, anyone, right? So here God is saying, look, in the week we have 7 days, right? So 6 days of this week you're gonna work, you shall labor, you shall do all the things that you want to do. But then on the 7th day is the Sabbath. You have to dedicate it to me because I have made it holy. And then in verse 11 says the reason why. For in 6 days, again, yamim, the same word yom used in Hebrew, in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy, or hallowed it. So you can see here that there is a direct comparison between the week, so working 6 days, and then keeping the 7th day for the Lord, the Sabbath, and it's the exact same as in 6 days of the week God created everything, and on the 7th day he rested. So no correct exegesis is ever gonna tear these two things apart, because it's in the same passage, he's talking about the same things. God is talking about here a physical week, 6 days, and then the 7th day in 1 week. So that's, I think, the most compelling argument that I have to have this literal interpretation of the days in Genesis 1, even if, as I said before, there was no sun for the first 3 days, so we don't know how these days were counted. But the Bible is clear in Exodus that this is exactly as the same days that we have in a week: 6 days working, 7th day for the Lord. So this is just the most compelling argument, I think. At least I found to believe that we should have this literal interpretation of Genesis, because exactly as we have 7 days in our work week, right? Exactly, that's in the same way that God created everything in that same period of time. So And again, here I have a reference for the Hebrew, right? The word yamim, this is the plural. If you look at yom, you have you can see it in Genesis. This is the actual word that's used, like day, the first day, right? Genesis 1, 1, 1, 1. This the word that's being used for first day, second day, and so on. And now if you look at the other passages, you can see that this is actually translated in many different ways. And sometimes you can see that it's translated as a larger period of time. But this is mostly when it's used, like if you read the context, it's very easy to understand because it's many times it's a plural. So for example, in the days of David, right, it's referring to in the time where David lived. So it doesn't say specifically in which particular day, but in the time in which David lived. But these verses, if you read them carefully, it's very easy from the context to understand that it's days used in this way. But the singular, especially in almost every single scenario, in every single verse, you're going to find this word is almost entirely always used for the meaning of a fixed period of time of working day. So of course we have to be wise, right? And this is a very nice explanation here on the different references that we have of this word, right? And as I said before, most of the times it's very easy to see that it's a day used. Sometimes it's even a period of time, but it's easy to understand, right? That it's talking about that. In Genesis 1, we don't have anything that would suggest that it was a period of time also there. And also, because I said before, Exodus 20 makes it pretty clear. The same comparison between our 7 days of the week and the 7 days in which the Lord created everything. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, guys. Thanks for watching, and God bless you. See ya. Bye-bye.